Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into the really messy, awkward, and very real experiences of Taiwanese men drafted to fight as Japanese soldiers in World War II. Imagine being told you're Japanese one day, Taiwanese the next, and, well, cannon fodder the day after. Talk about an identity crisis with bullets flying, right? It's a story tangled in loyalty, survival, and, honestly, enough irony to make a history professor cry. We'll be uncovering this complex history using sources that include first-hand accounts and historical context from the time. Our mission is really to understand the profound impact of this identity conflict on these individuals and how their sacrifices were, demanded and then just disavowed. So let's unpack this historical context a bit. Taiwan was under Japanese colonial rule during WWII. That fact alone really sets the stage for an incredibly fraught situation for its people.
Yeah, exactly. Colonial power dynamics are always complex, but you throw in a world war. And loyalties, identities, they get twisted in ways you can barely imagine. And one really striking thing that comes out of the sources is this rigidly enforced societal hierarchy. It's described pretty starkly. Japanese first class, Taiwanese second class, Takasago tribe, third class citizens. So that immediately presents this, paradox, doesn't it? Why would people from the most marginalized group facing that kind of discrimination even think about volunteering to fight for the very colonizer oppressing them?
That is the core question, isn't it? And our sources, they suggest that for some indigenous people, especially from the Takasago tribe, becoming a Japanese soldier offered something. Something beyond just military service. It was seen as this rare, maybe even desperate path to gain respect, a perceived way, maybe the only way, to escape the discrimination they faced every single day.
So it wasn't just about forced conscription across the board?
Not entirely, no. For some, there was this real, though kind of tragic element of perceived social mobility, a chance to, lift their status in that rigid system.
And we see this reflected in individual stories. There's Ri Genji, a member of the Takasago tribe. He was drafted in 1941. The Japanese military, they were actively looking for men with, exceptional physical strength, good physique. They recognized the capabilities these communities have.
Almost like a commodity, right?
Yeah.
Valued traits for the brutal demands of war.
Precisely.
It's hard to really picture that scene, though. These young men, often just teenagers, leaving home maybe forever. One account describes soldiers departing with these really striking red sashes, and everyone else, the young, the old, kids lining the streets, waving Japanese flags, and just crying.
Wow.
Yeah, a deeply emotional, very public farewell. Steeped in this weird mix of pride, fear, and this sort of coerced loyalty to an empire that exploited them, but also offered this tiny sliver of, perceived opportunity.
The internal conflict must have been immense, even before they saw combat. And connecting this to the bigger picture, the Japanese army was actually very shrewd about it. They used the unique skills of the indigenous Taiwanese. They formed specialized units, sometimes called Mai Tai units, these high mobility groups, specifically leveraging the incredible physical prowess of people like the Takasago tribe, who traditionally lived in forests.
Right. Their way of life made them superior physically, adaptable, stealthy.
Exactly.
Basically tailor-made for guerrilla warfare.
Yeah.
We've got an account from a 102-year-old former Japanese officer, Isan, who confirmed they explicitly trained these indigenous soldiers for really dangerous night raids.
Night raids.
Yeah, teaching them to infiltrate enemy strongholds with explosives. Their night vision was exceptional, apparently, honed from living in dense forests, and they could move so silently. Ideal for those kinds of missions.
Often suicidal missions, let's be frank.
Yeah, quite possibly. They were seen as this invaluable asset for these specialized high-risk operations.
And that really underscores the specific and incredibly perilous roles they were given. They were consistently sent to the absolute fiercest battlefields in the southern regions, places like New Guinea.
Oh, New Guinea. Brutal fighting there.
Unbelievably brutal. Sources tell us over 120,000 Japanese soldiers died in those specific theaters. It just highlights the extreme danger these Mai Tai soldiers in particular were facing.
But the reality on the ground, it was grim. Almost beyond imagining, really. The sources paint such a stark picture. You had overwhelming Allied forces, severe jungle conditions, and then the food supply routes just completely disrupted. Yeah. So soldiers were constantly collapsing from illness or literally starving to death.
The numbers are just horrific. Over 4,000 indigenous people sent to these battlefields.
And the casualty rate.
A staggering 70%.
70%. That tells you everything, doesn't it? Deployed into the most unforgiving, high-attrition places, often with very little chance of making it back.
And the testimonies from survivors, They're chilling. Deeply unsettling. Soldiers dealing with extreme hunger would eat absolutely anything. Lizards, snakes, eaten raw sometimes.
That's desperation.
Utter desperation. One account even describes men resorting to drinking urine.
God.
And most disturbingly, there are these whispers, almost unspeakable things about cannibalism.
Why, and I saw that. Genji's son overheard.
Exactly. Overheard his father discussing it secretly with a friend, a memory that must have just haunted the family for decades.
And Genji himself, his suffering was immense. He fought in Indonesia, described the combat as just killing each other. A nightmare. He personally stabbed 2 enemies, saw human flesh fly from a grenade explosion right in front of him. The sheer brutality.
Stays with you.
Forever. And his mother, back in Taiwan, she worried so much about him she actually went blind.
Oh, that's tragic.
Yeah. He carried that guilt, those horrific memories, plagued by bad dreams, right up until he died at 76. His story is just, it's a testament to those lasting invisible scars. So the war finally ends. What happens then? What did it mean for these Taiwanese soldiers who'd fought under the Japanese flag? The immediate shock must have been incredibly disorienting. Japan's rule over Taiwan just ceased abruptly, and suddenly they weren't Japanese anymore.
Just like that.
Yeah. Their identity, the one many had fought for, some even volunteered for, revoked, gone.
Which brings us to this crucial paradox, right? What happens when the very identity you suffered for is just stripped away? And the sources are pretty clear on this. Most of these Taiwanese ex-soldiers got almost nothing. No post-war compensation.
Unlike their Japanese counterparts.
Exactly. Japanese soldiers got military pensions. These guys, mostly nothing. It's not just about unpaid wages. It's about how colonial powers can build up and then just instantly tear down identities, leaving people adrift for decades. In this national personal void.
Take Wu Masao. His story is particularly heartbreaking, I think. Really illustrates this abandonment. He genuinely believed he'd completely become Japanese.
Yeah.
Volunteered at 16. 16.
So young.
Prepared to die for Japan in a glider suicide unit. On a survey for a special attack mission, he actually chose intense desire to die.
Chose it.
But then this cruel twist of fate. The war ends while he's still in North Korea. It saved him from the attack, but
his ordeal was far from over. He gets captured by Soviet soldiers, endures 3 brutal years of Siberian internment in Kazakhstan.
Siberia, well, Kazakhstan, but that cold.
Extreme cold. Minus 25 degrees Celsius. Constant lack of food. He said he only felt about 30% full. Backbreaking labor, digging frozen sand with a pickaxe, barely breaking the surface.
Unimaginable.
And here's a really remarkable detail, tragically ironic. His Japanese name, Oyama, inadvertently got him put on a ship to Japan after his release.
Not Taiwan.
Not Taiwan. He described this 23-year delay in getting back home as the greatest mistake of my life. Just compounding tragedies, this post-war limbo.
And back in Taiwan, for those who did return, or for their families, the situation was, well, equally traumatic, maybe even more so. The Chinese Nationalist Party, the KMT, took over. And for many Taiwanese, this wasn't liberation. It was a new kind of terror.
Yeah, there's that chilling saying mentioned in the sources.
Dogs left, pigs came.
Referring to the Japanese and the KMT. It's harsh, but it reflects how people felt about the new rulers versus the old ones.
The KMT immediately started suppressing anyone associated with the Japanese era. Japanese educated elites, the language itself was banned, people were arrested, imprisoned, tortured, executed, tens of thousands, often for, flimsy reasons.
And Wu Masao's family.
They had to scatter. His father had been a Japanese colonial official, so they were targets, which explains this paradox, why many Taiwanese actually became kind of pro-Japan after the war. They saw the KMT as even more oppressive, more arbitrary. A complex shift in allegiance, definitely, shows the impact of these successive authoritarian regimes. And that struggle for recognition, it just went on for decades. There's that unbelievable story, right? The soldier found in the Indonesian jungle in 1974.
Still fighting.
Still fighting. Didn't even know the war had ended 30 years earlier.
Incredible.
And when they finally brought him back, he got something like 60,000 yen for unpaid wages.
Peanuts.
And just sent back to Taiwan.
Yeah.
Compare that to how Japanese ex-soldiers were treated. It's stark.
It prompted a lawsuit, didn't it, for pensions by the Taiwanese ex-soldiers?
Yeah, but it was denied. Left so many, including Wu Masao, with absolutely nothing for their service, their suffering.
It really does beg the question, how can a nation just disavow people who sacrifice so much, effectively erase their service or existence. Umasao himself tried to get Japanese citizenship later on,
Yeah.
was basically told his wartime record, including the internment, would complicate things, make him ineligible.
So his past, his sacrifices were being used against him.
Exactly. He felt completely denied, invalidated by the nation he fought for. He bitterly lamented the lack of memorials for the 30,000 Taiwanese who died fighting for Japan. A painful void, a silence that speaks volumes.
And even today, you hear it. That lingering identity crisis from the survivors. Chang Changchao, 96 years old, survived the Imphal operation.
Another brutal campaign.
And he still insists, apparently with great difficulty speaking, I am Japanese.
Wow. Still feels that connection, or maybe that abandonment.
Felt abandoned by both governments, Taiwanese and Japanese, after the war. Left in this kind of national limbo. It's a psychological toll.
Yeah.
It's immense, clearly enduring.
But what's really crucial here, I think, is understanding the complex reality that emerges from these testimonies. It wasn't all just one thing. Yes, the colonial experience was undeniably marked by terrible suffering, systemic discrimination, no question.
Absolutely.
But some interviewees also pointed out that Japanese rule did bring some unexpected, maybe even positive aspects, like the spread of the Japanese language.
How so?
Well, it actually helped communication, reduced conflict between different indigenous tribes who previously spoke completely different languages.
That's a perspective you don't often hear.
It's just a powerful reminder, isn't it? History is rarely black and white. Individual experiences within these huge historical events can be incredibly nuanced, sometimes even contradictory.
And while we wrestle with geopolitics and wartime trauma, don't forget to wrestle with that subscribe button. Join us daily for more uncomfortable truths, maybe some sarcastic laughs, and these brain-stretching dives. And a big salute to our producer, FireflyHaku, our very own general, minus the uniform, who somehow keeps this battlefield of ideas marching in a straight line. Thank you for listening.